This week, we have witnessed the most horrific attack, not just on Israel, not just on the Jewish nation, not just on Israelis, but on the Jewish people and on Jews, simply because they were Jews since the Holocaust. The stories we've heard, the images we've seen are horrific, and I won't go into them this morning. You know them all too well. They are now permanently seared into our memories and our hearts. The fact that there are individuals and organizations all across the world, all across this country, and especially on college campuses, including at FAU in Boca Raton, shouting, "Kill the Jews," placing all the blame on Israel, celebrating Hamas, and waving Taliban and ISIS and Al-Qaeda flags is truly incomprehensible. Did we ever think that we would, as we did yesterday, ever have to fear for our safety as Jews again because of a global day of jihad to kill all Jews, not just Israelis? I can spend hours speaking just on this issue alone, but I don't want to give them any more publicity than they already have. What I want to share with you, to quote Prime Minister Netanyahu, is that as much horror as we've seen, we've also seen just as much heroism. And the unity of the people of Israel, the unity of all Jews everywhere, is what will sustain us and enable us to emerge victorious. As Israel mobilizes its military response and then has to account for how such a breach of security and intelligence could have happened in the first place, stories of individual people's bravery in the face of unimaginable danger have given us a reason to be hopeful, to continue to have hatikvah, and to continue to feel proud to be Jewish. And that is why this morning, I want to share with you some examples of this bravery and heroism. First, Hamas was no match for an intrepid 25-year-old Israeli woman who saved an entire kibbutz from harm by leading a group of residents to kill more than 24 advancing terrorists, including 5 that she killed herself. Since December 2022, Inbar Lieberman has been the security coordinator of kibbutz Nir Am. She heard explosions early Saturday when the terrorists launched their unprecedented attack on the Jewish state. She realized that these sounds were different than those heard during the usual rocket attacks on the kibbutz, which is located near Sderot and just a stone's throw from the Gaza Strip. So Lieberman rushed to open the armory, distributed guns to the 12-member security team, and coordinated their decisive response amid the unfolding attack. She placed her squad of kibbutzniks in strategic positions across the settlement and set up ambushes that caught the gunmen off guard and turned the tables on them during their mission to inflict mass casualties. As I said, Lieberman killed 5 terrorists all by herself, while the others gunned down 20 or more over 4 hours as they turned Nir Am into an impenetrable fortress, while nearby kibbutzim suffered heavy losses. Elit Paz, the cultural coordinator at Nir Am, told the news, "It was amazing. My husband was part of the standby unit that worked to prevent more casualties. They heard the shots and made contact on their own with the other members of the standby unit and with Inbal, and they understood that they were told to be on standby. But Inbal made a decision not to wait and be jumped operationally. In fact, the fact that she did it so early prevented dozens of casualties. She placed her squad of kibbutzniks in strategic positions, and when it's all over, this woman will receive the Israel Prize. The story of her heroism is a story that will go down in Israeli lore for generations." Then, but Inbal is the reason that there is one kibbutz in the entire surrounding area that remains unharmed, and that's kibbutz Nir Am. Then there is Noam Tibon, a retired general who was already known for his military leadership, which included commanding the Israel Defense Forces in the north and his participation in this year's pro-democracy protests. On Saturday, Tibon learned that his son, the journalist Amir Tibon, was trapped with his family in their home in Kibbutz Nachal Oz, a short distance from the Gaza border. He grabbed his single pistol and with his wife drove from Tel Aviv toward Nachal Oz. Their journey has been thoroughly documented in Israeli media, including an account by his son Amir. But first, Tibon encountered survivors of Hamas's attack on a rave and drove them north, away from his son. And then he ran into soldiers with no apparent mission and convinced one of them to join him. Before getting to his son's kibbutz, they met injured soldiers and once again drove in the opposite direction to take them to safety. Well, finally, Tibon arrived at Nachal Oz and with a handful of soldiers killed the Hamas attackers outside his son's home. And then he knocked on the window. And inside, Amir Tibon's 3-year-old daughter responded, using the Hebrew word for grandfather. She said, "Saba is here." Noam Tibon is not the only retired general to burst into action without receiving orders to do so. Yair Golan, who was previously a left-wing member of the Knesset, has drawn attention for making multiple heroic rescues. First, he retrieved a journalist trapped in his home after his father posted on social media that the army and the police were not acting to save him. And later he learned about 3 young men who were in hiding after running from Hamas attackers at the nature party at Kibbutz Re'im, where 260 Israelis died and others were taken hostage. There too, the army had not attempted a rescue, according to an account from Rani Gaon, the father of one of the young men that the family posted on Facebook. But then suddenly, out of nowhere, the angels arrive at the location of my son and his friends, calls my son, calls him by name, tells him, "Hello, Major Yair Golan is speaking. Come here to me." And he said his son told him, "Golan came to collect us. He will bring us all the way to you." And that's exactly what happened. This person, this hero, came and rescued them from the area. I have no words to thank and salute you, Yair Golan. So, if you want to know why Israel will win this war, we will win because of the brave and moral soldiers who are protecting us and now going on the offensive from land, sea, and air, and yes, in cyberspace. We will win because of the rock-solid unity of the people of Israel and of all Jews everywhere. We will win because of the anonymous donor who stood at the El Al counter at JFK Airport and paid for an airline ticket for every person who showed him a Tsav 8, an IDF mobilization notice. In all, this man purchased $250,000 worth of airline tickets. I told you I didn't hear that story before. We will win because of the kids on the corners who are selling cotton candy, not for money, but on the condition that the customer recites psalms to heal him for the soldiers, for the injured, and for the missing. We will win because of the Gur Hasidim, who are delivering pizzas and hamburgers, not at the same time, don't worry, to soldiers. We will win because non-kosher restaurants in Tel Aviv are koshering their restaurants so that they can feed all soldiers. We will win because of the soldier who remotely took part in his son's bris from the battlefield. We will win because 2 anonymous donors from the United States paid for 160 families who lost their homes in the South to stay at the Plaza Hotel. And in the lobby was food and clothing, all for free. We will win because of Bruna Valeno, a Brazilian Israeli student who was brutally murdered at the Re'im Music Festival. Her only family in Israel was her mother and sister. So a message went out calling on strangers to attend her funeral so that there would be a minyan to say Kaddish. Thousands showed up. And finally, we will win because of Ezra Cohen. Who is Ezra Cohen? He is a 95-year-old who volunteered for reserve duty. Ezra fought in the 1948 War of Independence, and he is now a source of motivation for the troops currently on the front lines. We will win. So let me conclude with some words of Torah. This morning, we began a new cycle of Torah readings. And in it we read that when God created the world, it was good. But then something happened. Man became evil. He became wicked. This saddened God. It broke God's heart. We need to heal God's heart by restoring the world to that initial condition of goodness. We do so by our acts of bravery, as I've recounted. But we also do so, as did God, by wiping out the modern day evil, which, as the Torah calls it, is known as Hamas. Again, let us pray for the safety of our men and women of the IDF and for all citizens of Israel. Let us pray that no more innocent loss of life be had anywhere. Let us pray for peace. And finally, let us pray that once and for all, we rid this world of Hamas and of those who prefer darkness over light and evil over goodness. Am Yisrael Chai. Shabbat Shalom.
Yashikol, Rabbi.
What do we do now?